The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Our passion transforms a community channel that sees all things new. My name is Jennifer Nuya, live streaming from Cavite, Philippines. You're watching Stories from the Fringe. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are in the world. And welcome to Stories from the Fringe. If this is your first time tuning in, Stories from the Fringe aims to push for more conversations regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Let us know that you can hear us well by typing into the chat box where you are joining us from today, and what curiosity are you bringing with you? Wonderful. You can also drop in your questions, pop in your comments in the same chat box. We'd love to hear from you. And we will also drop in links from time to time that you can copy for later use or click on. Wonderful. All right. So, I have here my good friend, Melvin Phillips from Check for Check, who will be also helping us with today's episode. And thank you also to Direct Monica and Direct Jane for the logistics, for helping us at the back end. I'll be showing a few slides. Okay. All right. So for those of you, this is already the third season, but I'm not sure if I have shared my background with the rest of you, my viewers. So my massive transformative purpose is to co-create the human collective experience, and I have an extensive background in the human resources and organization development space, and with the COVID-19 pandemic, it gave me a jolt, and I've decided to create my own economy. So I have worked with several multinational companies, matrixed, and now I am the managing director of Games to Unite Incorporated and the managing partner of Check for Check. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled today to share with you my understanding and my understanding about the exponential organizations. So we hope to cover as much ground today. So after this brief presentation, You will be able to explain in your own words the phenomena of exponential organizations, its high relevance today, and the overall technological and economic context that gave rise to it. And number two, understand massive transformative purpose and its function as the North Star for exponential organizations. And finally, reflect on the current state of your organization and how to leverage the EXO attributes. So who is it for? It's best for business leaders from startups, scale-ups, and the incumbents who want to 10 times or 100 times their growth and capability. And this is good for managers and up who want to shape the workplace of the future. Acceptable to employees who are considering entrepreneurship as a viable career. Next slide, please. So let's start. Let's start with a bigger picture of where organizations and our societies today. So the fourth industrial revolution is a name chosen by the World Economic Forum. But there are many other names that you might have read, books like the second machine age, industry 4.0, and many others. And some people are even saying that what is happening actually is beyond an industry and it is actually affecting the whole society. And it's not just limited to industries. But let's just say, for our example, we take fourth industrial revolution. So the first industrial revolution started in the United Kingdom, which was the pioneer of the first industrial revolution in 17th and 18th century. Most of it was built on steam, but there were other machines also. We have industrialized a lot of our production, which eventually led into the second industrial revolution. At the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century, electricity became a big deal. And we have also designed new ways to produce things which we scale, such as assembly lines. Finally, we had a revolution, information technologies and computing, which we are at the end of, starting in the 50s and 60s, and full coming to fruition at the beginning of the 21st century. I think it's fair that even today, we are still feeling the impact of the last one and how much it has changed our world. So we are still now at the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. It might seem quite far into it, but actually we're still at the beginning, and I'll explain in a second why. So if you consider how much the world has changed in the previous industrial revolutions, it's by no means an understatement to assume that there are big changes ahead of us. So there are many technologies that are making up the fourth industrial revolution, although there are more of them that you can see here. Can you please share the next slide, please? So we can, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so the third industrial revolution, if I may highlight, is called the digital transformation. And the fourth industrial revolution is the digital disruption. Next slide, please. All right, so let's start at the top. So we have artificial intelligence, which is both a narrow artificial intelligence, which means specific applications of artificial intelligence. There are also advancements that are being done in artificial intelligence, although comparatively it is much less advanced still. Then we also have the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So I assume that most of you are familiar with this. And from what I've read, Japan has already relaxed its regulations around cryptocurrencies. And there are other countries like Chile and Vietnam that they really welcome the use of cryptocurrencies. But I still believe that the potential of what this means for the global economic and financial system has not yet been explored at all. Another is biotechnology, then augmented and virtual reality and drones. So what we can see here is just a small drone. We have big drones and they are also called flying cars. Just last week, I saw a video of the launch of a flying car in China. So that's a big step. We are now advancing in the drone technology. Next is solar energy and energy in the general, especially renewable energies. Quantum computing, so this one is an example of a quantum computer. You can actually program it or rent a space and you can do quantum computer applications. Finally, there are digital manufacturing, self-driving cars, and robotics. So those are some of the technologies that are happening all at once. So in reality, it's more like 20 within a matter of moments, which are all happening at the same time. You may remember Gutenberg changed the world when he invented and he came out with the printing press. So that completely changed how we disseminate knowledge. And now we have the equivalent of 20 Gutenberg moments happening all at once. So for all these reasons, it's fair to say that the world is changing faster than anyone has predicted. So one of the key reasons here is the underlying dynamic behind those technologies and why they are growing so fast. So these technologies, we call them exponential technologies because they are all powered by information technology, information science. Next slide, please. Thank you. This means that Moore's law applies, which means that for more than 50 years, the price performance of microchip doubles roughly every 18 months. Exponential progression and doubling pattern is very deceptive as it grows very slow for a very long time. It seems that nothing is happening and then suddenly it explodes. It seems that nothing is happening and then everything is different. All the technologies that we mentioned are powered by information and microchips, which also means that they are subject to Moore's law. And that means that they are indeed very deceptive. Now, if I ask you, you can see here live, if I ask you now to stand up and go 30 steps, you know pretty much well where you will end up. You will know where you are at every point of the journey. At the end, you will be 30 meters in the direction that you choose. And you can very well estimate where you will be at every point of your journey. So you can estimate where you will be halfway, or you can be two-thirds, etc. So linear progression is quite easy to understand, and because it is predictable. However, can you please share the next slide? Thank you. However, if I ask you to take 30 exponential steps, 1, 2, 4, 16. So this is one kind of exponential progression that is doubling at every step. This is what happens. You may be able to reach billion meters, which is roughly an equivalent of 27 times around the Earth. So this is very different from the linear progression. But what is most shocking around this is that it's impossible to predict where you are at any point of the journey. You may be halfway through or elsewhere because, again, our minds is not used to think that way. Our minds are not used to think exponentially. So let's have a look at this. So if you take 15 steps, which is normally halfway to the final destination, you won't even reach half of 0.05 or 0.01% of your total distance. So you can see that the rest of the numbers on the slide, 20 steps, 25 steps, actually the last 5 steps account for 95% or 97%, almost all of the final result. And again, this only happens in the last steps. Again, this is something that our mind find it difficult to understand. All the technologies that we have been discussing about earlier, they have been developing for many years, sometimes for decades, but they are now entering into the phase where they are moving at the steeper part of the curve, which is what makes things unpredictable. Next slide, please. Thank you. Perhaps you can skip this. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's now talk about flying cars. So flying cars have been appearing in science fiction literature for around 100 years, right? And as I've mentioned, China just recently launched their flying car. And the technology has made it happen. So now we can see the convergence of different technologies, and they make this industry disruptive. So when these exponential technologies converge, they make amazing things possible. So we will now be expecting to see fully operational and available flying cars within this decade. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in 2019 alone, there has been $1 billion invested in at least 25 flying car companies. And you can see here the few technologies that we have developed from a diverse set of applications. And when we put them together, they can make the flying car a reality. So we have the distributed electric propulsion, where you can have multiple engines that coordinate and operate quietly, which is quite different than a helicopter with one large, noisy, dangerous engine. With distributed electric propulsion, you have multiple engines that are quiet and all coordinated via artificial intelligence algorithms that can synchronize the small engines. This is needed because a pilot cannot do it manually. So this development needed to be happening to make this system possible. Then you have LiDAR, accelerometer, GPS, and other tracking devices, which were developed in other places like self-driving cars and mobile phones, but they happen to be also very useful for a flying car. So thanks to the development in solar energy and other energies, we now have batteries that are capable to store enough power to fuel the flying car for as long as it needs. We have advanced computer simulations that can design better shapes and materials. So new materials have also appeared in material science, and 3D printers are now actually able to print significant percentage, the whole parts, the section, which wasn't possible before. This is incredible when you think of the sophistication and safety requirements of these are huge. Because of all these technologies, the flying car is finally possible. But not only flying car, as we all saw earlier, the future is faster than we think. So the convergence of technology is speeding things up. As such, it is important for us to keep asking about the future and study resources that can help us better peek into and understand the future. Next slide, please. Ray, Ray Kurzweil famously said that we are about to experience 20,000 years of technological progress in just 100 years. So that's basically from agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago to the present moment within the next century. So it's incredibly fast. But let's now have a look at what that means for businesses and the society as a whole. So how do these technologies actually impact society? How do they impact the world? And how do they impact businesses and industries? So Peter Diamandis is one of the co-founders of Singularity University, and he is also the founder of the X Prize Foundation and the Abundance 360 and Abundance Digital Communities. So Peter here defined the 6 Ds. Basically, he said that once domain becomes information enabled, it goes on a predictable trajectory characterized by 6 Ds. So we have digitized, deceptive, disruptive, demonetized, dematerialized, and democratized. So think of all the money that was invested today into the digital transformation. So, well, that's just a step ahead. That's just number one out of these 6. There are 5 more that organizations have to deal with and can tap into. I sometimes say that becoming digital is like you're buying yourself a ticket for the 4th Industrial Revolution, but it's not the end point. It's just, again, just the beginning. So let me cover each one in sequence in the following slides. So the first one is digitization. Digitization is about taking something that is analog and then turning them into digital information. There are about trillion sensors predicted to be all around the world soon, and each one of these gathers data. Many things that were previously invisible to computers will now be visible. They can be analyzed and worked with. Nearly every domain of our society, nearly every organization is becoming digital. So Natia Sadelia, a CEO, said that all companies now have to be a digital company. All companies need to be a software company. So the question is whether you will do it or not. or the question rather, is not whether you will become a software company or not, but the question is when. Because either you will become digital or not. If not, then you can be irrelevant. Now, when that happens, the domain then enters into the deceptive phase. Next slide, please. So an interesting metaphor for this can be found in nature, the Chinese bamboo. So when you plant it for 5 years, it seems that nothing is happening. You don't see anything, but something is happening underground. It's just that you can't see it. Then after 5 years in the ground, it starts growing, and in 5 weeks, it actually grows to 25 meters. For 5 years, nothing. And then in 5 weeks, it's the fastest growing planet. It's the fastest growing plant on the planet. So this is what we call deceptive. A similar pattern exists with every exponential technology. Now, if I may share, when Craig Venter was sequencing the human genome for the first time, there was set a large budget and a timeline, and it was going very slow. When they were about 1% of the total outcome, it seemed that they will need another 70 years to finish it at that pace. Most of people at that time were telling him to stop and save him the embarrassment, since they didn't see any way the project could be done on time and on budget. Now, Ray Kurzweil noticed that the progression was exponential, not linear. So when people were losing faith in the project, he said that they were halfway done. And surely enough, the project was finished under budget and way before the deadline. So such is the power of exponentials, and genome sequencing is even going faster than doubling, faster than Moore's law. So exponential progression is deceptive for a very long time, and then suddenly we see a black swan. Okay, so this black swan, when things become disruptive. So we have some industries, books, newspapers, music, and movies that got disrupted, and we have the corresponding disruptors, the apps that you can see on the slide. Okay, so we have discussed so far the first 3Ds, that is digitized, deceptive, and disruptive. Then it becomes remarkably interesting. The second set of 3Ds, first is demonetized. So essentially, the money disappears from the old business model. Next slide, please. Thank you. The old way of making money, which was built on scarcity, old technologies, and old business models, disappears. It's gone. It has already happened in several industries and many more to come. So, for example, what happens when the telecommunications companies, once the internet becomes ubiquitous? What will happen to electric companies once we figure out free or at least very cheap energy? Example from the sun in combination with other exponentially improving batteries and peer-to-peer energy networks. So this is what is likely going to happen in every, or at least in most industries. So we next slide, okay, we talk about being dematerialized. Awesome. So we've just seen on the video how over the last few decades, everything we use for our office work moved from being analog to digital. So software is eating the world, as said by Mark Anderson. He's the author of Mosaic, the first internet browser. And I think this will keep happening. We should not forget that the physical world, because it is very important, but it is likely that more and more of our daily professional and maybe personal lives will be moving to the digital space. And finally, the final outcome of that is a lot of things are becoming democratized. While there is a lot of inequality in the world, there is also at the same time more quality in certain domains than we ever had. So people have access to things that they never had access before. Just imagine you have a mobile phone connected to the internet. You have access to more information than presidents and heads of states that had just a few decades ago. And at the same time, with all this informational abundance, it is becoming more crucial that we become intentional and selective about what information we pay attention to. So these trends are already impacting businesses everywhere. The IE Business School did a research in 2019 and found out that 40% of European company employees are saying their companies will be disappearing in the next 10 years if they don't radically change themselves. So I ask you, dear viewers, at this juncture, how has your profession been disrupted? And what are you doing in order to manage this disruption? So the survey on the right was made among over 700 CEOs, asking them what keeps them at night. And while the first thing on the list, talent, is no surprise, the second, third, and fourth are new. So this would not normally appear on surveys like this. So the necessity to be aware of exponential technologies, the need to capitalize on them and invent new business models and investing into the next generation leaders, all of these are now becoming major concerns and sources of competitive advantage. And note that cost reduction is only number 5. So this is a brief introduction to the context of the technological progress in the world today and by how this affects society and organizations today. So we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about exponential technologies and organizations some more. Stay tuned.
Juan Lu and his puppets face to face with special guests Makata Tawanan, Jess Box, and the Lunaria Marionette Show.
Salita. Alam mo, Tito Anlo, kung wala ako, magsasalita ka mag-isa. Kung wala ako, wala kang masusuot. Kung wala ako, wala kang nakakain.
November 13, Sunday, 7 p.m. at the La Verdad Auditorium in Apalit, Pampanga. Buy your tickets now and see you soon, face to face.
TNC is a live stream platform of online shows for people on the go. Please watch all our shows as seen on the screen. Imagine having your own show, your own playlist, your own content, but we make it easier for you. TNC aims to transform the lives of our viewers through engaging, authentic, and original content. Our vision is to become the global 24/7 live stream channel that showcases Filipino talent, global influencers, cultural intelligence, and ingenuity. You can watch us live or on replay via Facebook or YouTube. Follow us on IG. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search hashtag TNC Now. So for sponsorships, please email now@thenewchannel.com or send us a DM. Of course, thank you so much for spending your Thursday mornings with me watching Stories from the Fringe, live streamed every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Philippine Standard Time. Enjoy these life-changing shows because we made them just for you. Welcome back to Stories from the Fringe. So earlier we were talking about the 6 Ds of exponential organizations. So I hope that you are getting value from this sharing on exos. Can we please flash again the PowerPoint presentation? Thank you so much. So you can see here 2 pictures side by side, and they are taken on the same day, only 13 years apart. So on the left side, you can see here when New York City had a lot of horse carriages. Can you spot the automobile? So there's only one there. And on the right side, they say that there is a horse carriage there, but I really cannot see it. Perhaps you have better luck. So as such, as technologies around us are progressing at exponential pace, we need to also look at whether our organizations are structured well to capitalize on them. Salim Ismail and the author team of the book Exponential Organizations have done a thorough research around 200 of the most iconic, innovative, and original companies in 2010. Their central question was, can our organization scale as fast as our technologies can? And if so, how are they doing it? Next slide, please. And they found that there are 11 secret ingredients that these companies are tapping into. So these ingredients are the blueprint of scalable, innovative, fast, growing, and very successful organizations. We call this the exponential organizations. Essentially, there's something that we call the EXO formula. First, there is something that is called the massive transformative purpose, or MTP. Next slide, please. Yes. So these EXOs are purpose-driven organizations deploying 11 unique attributes and the MTP to access and manage abundance. I'm pretty sure that you're all familiar with some of the organizations here. So some examples here that we have: Google, organize the world's information; TED, ideas, word sharing; Boston Children's Hospital, until every child is well. And then also we have Interprotection, simply solving humanity's risks. Next slide, please. All right, so there are now attributes that are externally focused and help to access the abundance that exists in the market. So like Airbnb, it doesn't own any of the houses or the hotels, and they are tapping into the abundance of spare bedrooms that have already existed even before it was founded. So we have here in the Philippines Grab or Lyft in other countries that are tapping into the abundance of available cars and drivers and so on. Now, these attributes can be remembered under the acronym of SCALE: staff on demand, community and proud, algorithms, leveraged assets, and engagement. And then there are the 5 attributes that are internally focused, and that helps manage this market abundance internally. So these are under the acronym IDEAS. We have interfaces, dashboard, experimentation, autonomy, and social technologies. So all of these EXO attributes are essential. Now, the MTP gives the organization the direction. Scale attributes helps to discover and benefit from the sources of abundance in the market, while ideas attributes ensures this abundance and growth it produces can be managed well internally. Now let's listen to Celine.
It might seem as though unicorns like Uber or Airbnb have just been in the right place at the right time. Or maybe it's just luck. But as I've shown with many companies, exponential results can be deliberately engineered. And I'm going to show you how. Take YouTube. They went from being funded by the credit cards of the founder to being acquired by Google for $1.4 billion in less than 18 months. And then there's Instagram. At the same time as Kodak was shutting down, Instagram gets acquired by Facebook for $1 billion after just 3 years and with 13 employees. These companies are what we call exponential organizations, or EXOs. They have 10 times the impact of their competition. If you're a leader in an organization and you're passionate about building an amazing company, you have an ambition to make this company more than just a way to get by, you should be working on becoming an EXO like YouTube or Instagram. Because if you're not, other people are. There are 11 attributes of EXO that I want to share with you. The first and most important is what we call a massive transformative purpose, or your MTP. This is your why. It's what gets you up at 6 a.m. It's what inspires you, what gels a community around you. Next, we have staff on demand. The industrial age is over. Even big companies like AMP are now outsourcing what they can. This makes your company agile, flexible, fast-moving, and super cost-effective. Then you have community and crowd. An EXO builds systems to get the best people to come to you. They learn how to leverage growing communities to scale faster and bigger than at any time in the history of business. The fourth is algorithms. The best EXOs leverage data and algorithms to scale in ways that weren't possible even 5 or 10 years ago. Google's PageRank algorithm earns more than $1 billion a week. UPS saves $1 billion a year by routing 55,000 trucks efficiently with an algorithm. Number 5 is leveraged assets. Own only what's absolutely critical and outsource everything else. Think Airbnb being the largest hotel chain in the world without owning a single property. Or Uber, a taxi company that owns no taxis. And number 6 is engagement. You can track in real time how users are interacting, what's working in your marketing, and get feedback on how to improve and where. You're engineering the behaviors you want from your community. The 7th one is interfaces. Big data is big, and an EXO chooses its data wisely. Filter the external chaos into usable and actionable information. That's how you stay agile while scaling. Number 8 is dashboards. EXOs are very data-driven. Companies like Walmart, who track all inventory and credit card transactions in real time, they know the instant something happens and they can react very fast. Number 9 is experimentation. An EXO is constantly iterating on everything and takes calculated risk to test the boundaries of what's possible. They think, measure, test, iterate, and they do it very, very fast and in real time. 10th is autonomy. The old industrial business model is completely outdated. Zappos employees do absolutely what it takes to keep the customer happy. Mindvalley is a fun, flexible workplace built on love. These are what make an EXO faster and more accountable with amazing morale. And finally, number 11 is social technologies. Social platforms like Slack, Yammer, Chatter that allow EXOs to make fast decisions, leverage community, and enable peer-to-peer interactions. This is a brief rundown of the 11 attributes that would make up an exponential organization. But to become an EXO and you're an existing organization, you need to execute on about 4 of them. If you're a startup, you should be going after all 11. That's the secret. When you're ready to learn more, I explain each one in more detail in a blog post I've linked to below. And so to go to that page and get the full story. See you there.
Thank you, Direct Monica, for catching that. I did not realize that I was muted and magnificent. All right, so going back. So earlier we saw Celine Ismail introducing the different attributes. We now know that these attributes can be applied to any organization of any size in any industry. So not always all of them, but nearly some of them every time. So let me now go through them in a bit more detail and give you examples in each of these categories. Can we please move one slide back? Thank you. Yeah. So you can see this EXO canvas and the many organizations that are using or leveraging these EXO attributes. Excuse me. And now, as I go through them in a bit more detail and give you a few examples in each category, I encourage you to reflect. What could this mean for your organization? So here at the top, you will see the massive transformative purpose. So we have Virgin Group, changing business for good, SpaceX, making life multiplanetary. I don't think that needs any elaboration. Unilever, making sustainable living commonplace. So the first one, MTP, is meant to be a statement that describes the essence of an organization. This is different from the mission, vision of the organization. It captures the impact that the organization is creating. In our definition, the massive transformative purpose is not about the company. It's not being the best or the biggest in your industry. Instead, MTP is about how the world will be different when you succeed as a company. It essentially answers the question, why does your organization exist? And what's the reason for your organization's being? So these are some of the many companies who have MTP. So these are, excuse me, all these are inspiring statements, but they are not directly about these companies. Instead, they are about the world and about the world that they want to create or contribute via their business activities. It's about the why, not about the what or the how, and that expresses the ambition itself. So let's now direct our attention to staff on demand. So a couple of examples you may have here is a TaskRabbit and Lyft. Essentially, hiring on demand help to do different everyday things for you. What's interesting about staff on demand is that while many businesses actually regularly would outsource things or work with contractors, what is interesting is that if you go all the way down, you're actually using staff on demand for your core business processes. So Grab's or Uber's core business is to transport people from place or point A to B. Yet these companies do not actually employ any of their drivers. So for the core activity, the most important activity for the core business of the company, they tap into the abundance of on-demand drivers. This makes the company highly scalable. So this is different from just simple outsourcing. When you outsource some of your activities to the outsourcing provider, it is not the same. Often this is under a long-term contract, so it's not as flexible as the drivers, for example. You can scale it up or down as you need that easily. It's not the same. In fact, any of these attributes you can implement at different level of implementation. It's not binary. It's not like you have an attribute or not. It's more of a spectrum, and it describes to which level you have actually implemented them. So next is the community and crowd. So good example here is the TEDx movement, which was built behind their MTP's ideas worth spreading. So there have been now thousands of people all around the world organizing independent events that have been seamlessly integrated into the main TEDx brand. And this did not happen through the main conference that happens once a year. It was through the local TEDx events which have helped TED to become a global media brand in a record time. Another example of the organization that is working well with this attribute is Harley Davidson. They have loyal fans all around the world. Basically, whenever you have big fans of your products, people that really love, your product, you can speak of the beginnings of a strong community. Maybe Apple is one example of that. One aspect of community is that its members become part of its business. You don't pay them, they work with you and for you because they want to, because they are pulled by your massive transformative purpose. Your massive transformative purpose connects directly with what they also care about. And that makes them willing to spend time, energy, and resources to support your business. But they are not doing it for you, they are doing it for them. The third attribute is algorithms. Starting a business that is not AI business does not make sense in this day and age. I think any business should have an AI capability behind it, or at least most businesses should. So there are two examples here. We have Google and Netflix. Google is a search engine, number 15 or something like that. They had 100 investors turn them down before they made it work. But their core capability at the very beginning was a new and unique way to rank pages that was 10 times better than any other algorithm. That, together with the targeted advertising model they invented later, essentially made their business in the early years. Additionally, Netflix uses algorithms to recommend you movies and things to watch. And more interestingly, these algorithms can also predict what kinds of things people want to watch in the future, and then design new shows based on what people want to watch, even though people may not be actually able to put it in words. So they are screening every movie on about 70 to 80 categories, and then they are able to come up with predictive analytics to be able to design new ones. That's why Netflix is now turning itself into a movie studio. And it's hard to compete with Netflix because they know exactly what people want, whereas movie studios don't generally know it that well and have to make their best guess. We now move on to leveraged assets. Amazon Web Services, something very common. Airbnb is a typical example of leveraged assets where you are tapping into the assets that people have. In this case, it's empty bedrooms that guests can stay in. So compared to traditional hotel, their marginal cost of adding a new hotel room is nearly zero. And it also makes them more resilient in difficult times, such as the recent pandemic, as they don't need to maintain their idle assets at their own expense like others do, like hotels do. The next attribute is engagement. Good example is the X Prize Foundation, which incentivizes competitions to open and build new markets. Essentially, X Prize finds a nascent market and issues a global multi-million-dollar prize for which any team from anywhere in the world can sign up and compete for. I remember my experience of trying to compete in X Prize 2 years ago. It was a good experience, but unfortunately, we did not make the cut. But I learned a lot during that when we were trying to complete the pitch deck for that X Prize. Okay, the first X Prize was to make a suborbital flight. It was $10 million X Prize, and after it was born, a new industry was the new industry was born. Today, several companies are working to design and launch their suborbital flight services. So it's very interesting to open up new industries and to introduce innovation into society by actually incentivizing competition and engaging the community in this way. So a good example of this also is Duolingo. Maybe some of you, it's one of the world's most popular apps for learning a new language. I have used also Duolingo to learn Mandarin. They have gamified system of badges and points you can learn as you learn new things. You spend a small amount of time each day and earn points to encourage you to go back often and keep collecting more. These are all the scale attributes which help to pay attention to the outside toward the customers to access the abundance in the market. Now let's look at the 5 internal attributes. So the first one is interfaces. So the interface is like a bridge between the outside world, like your customers, and the internal world of your company. So for example, digital interfaces are very important for businesses today. The easier you make it for your customers to engage with you and interact with you, the easier it is for you to deliver value to the market. That's why I think interaction design is very important. There are now many roles and jobs for people working to design and optimize user interfaces. So, for example, Apple is a master of easy to use interfaces and of design more broadly. Their products are beautiful and easy to use. The second company here is NAC, which is a very creative company in the recruitment talent space. They essentially have a series of games you can play on your mobile phone. While they can access 70 distinct skills and behaviors. They can then break every job role into similar categories and compare them against each other. So as such, the company is able to access some of the best talent and often get access to people who, for various reasons, would never arrive at their desk via a standard recruitment process. It's also a great way to bypass any kind of discrimination and ensure a diverse and multi-profile workforce. The next attribute is dashboards. Dashboards give you real-time information about key organizational metrics for your company. So you can think of the dashboard in your car or on a plane, which gives the driver, the pilot, accurate real-time information about what is happening in a company. And for anyone who is making management and leadership decisions needs to have access to this similar stream of information. One example is Clipfolio, which is a dashboard as a service, where you can create your own visually beautiful dashboards, which are then automatically kept and emailed to you at preset intervals. So for example, if you have an online business, you can measure in real time things such as the number of sales, number of visitors to your website, number of people stuck at any stage of your marketing funnel, etc. In a world that is changing very fast, having real-time and reliable sources of data is very important. If you happen to have a 1 month lag between an issue arising and someone making a decision about it, it can cost you a lot. So real-time information is very important for exponential organization. And there is a book that is called Measure What Matters, which describes a measurement and management system that many EXOs use called objectives and key results, or OKRs. OKRs have now been used in tech and software companies as well as companies in more traditional industries, and even in charities and generally in many organizations globally. Next is experimentation. This is my favorite EXO attribute. So the key idea here is to make sure that before you make large investments into new initiatives, you first have to validate the market, whether someone actually wants your product and invests into making it better while the scale is still relatively small. So for example, Airbnb at the beginning did a lot of experimentation, and one thing that they found out is that people would book many more rooms if the room listings contained high quality photographs. So a lot of people's photographs were just bad because when Airbnb was just starting, the camera and the phones were not what they are today. So what did they do based on this insight? They hired professional photographers and then sent them to their first 1,000 customers to do professional photos of their apartments, so that the customers would feel more confident about staying in someone else's home. So as a result of that, more bookings on the website increased. And it turns out that we want to know where we will be staying, before we go there, right? Before we commit to rent the place. And another example is Sony. Even though they are a large legacy organization, they are putting new experiments on Kickstarter to test the market before they decide to add a new product to their lineup. The basic structure for experimentation comes from lean startup and follows the build, measure, learn cycle. Next is autonomy, which helps to empower people to find their own way to increase results, collaborate, drive engagement, and find innovative ways of getting things done. When people are clear on the MTP and have clear goals and real-time data about the performance of the business, as well as autonomy to choose their own path to the destination, many people find it empowering and perform well in this situation. An example of this is Valve, which is a software development company that has a very innovative and decentralized way of operating. Another is ING, which a few years ago shifted its entire corporate structure towards more agility and autonomy. As a result, few years down the line, they were able to increase their results with around 33% less people than when the transition started to be implemented. Finally, let's look at social technologies. So these are software tools that help people inside an organization to communicate better and help create value via peer-to-peer value creation. So we have Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp, Slack, Yammer, and the one that we're using right now, StreamYard. So for example, the OpenEXO team also uses WhatsApp. For check, we use WhatsApp. Right, so these are the 12 EXO attributes and some examples. This serves as the secret sauce that exponential organizations across industries use to grow, innovate, and in some cases, transform their industries. Next slide, please. Okay, so far, thank you for listening. And can you please drop in the comments section? What have you learned today? What have you struggled with? What would you like to know more about? And again, how can you harness the power of EXO attributes in your organization? We would very much love to hear your comments. Next slide, please. Looking ahead, what's next? So all industries are disrupted in the fourth industrial revolution. Again, the question is, how has your profession, your industry has been changed or disrupted, and how have you adapted to this disruption? Next, please. So it says here that the average age of an S&P 500 company has dropped from 60 years in the 1950s to 20 years in 2017. I'm sure that most of you remember Kodak, wherein they come in 24 or 36 rolls of film. We're very careful about using these films, right? And when you take out the roll of the film from the camera, you're very intentional on not letting it be exposed to the light. Otherwise, it will spoil the pictures. And did you know that actually it was Kodak? One of the employees of Kodak was the one who initiated the digital camera, the idea of a digital camera. But Kodak saw that it might be a threat to their business model. And now we realize what happened to Kodak. Okay, so digital camera replaced the analog cameras, the Polaroids, and then the digital camera was replaced. It's being replaced now. I can't remember any one person or any friend who owns digital camera today. It's now being replaced by mobile phones, right? So this is not only about Kodak. There are also other companies that were disrupted, and they were not able to shift to the fourth industrial revolution. Next, please. David Rose, an entrepreneur and angel investor, said, any company designed for success in the 20th century is doomed to failure in the 21st century. So I think we can, I think this is a good time to stop the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you so much, Melvin. Awesome. All right. Again, I hope that you found value with our presentation today, with our sharing today. It's been great to have you with us again. And if you love today's sharing, we encourage you to invite your friend, colleague, family member to be with us next Thursday. It's already November. Wow, how time flies. So to be with us again and be with us again next Thursday. And dear viewers, so that we can continue providing you valuable content that best serves your interests, we would we would need you to provide your feedback on today's sharing. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how would you rate today's episode? So I hope that you could take a few moments of your time to share your feedback on the chat below. Thank you so much. And thank you once again for being here. Have a good day of your morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. God bless everyone.